Have a reason why those baskets are here ever crossed your mind? I've got some news for you because they actually symbolize something. The book tells about Fiona's curse and how it was wrought. By night, one way, by day, another. Notice what she holds in her hand. By no accident, it's a sunflower. It's an intentional trick to emphasize the significance of the curse. A similar fate awaited those guys too, as in the day they wear green coats and red boots. During the night, they turn into the green-red creatures. Without luck though, because they got to be the basilics instead of an ogre like Fiona. Each of them also gets thrown into the tower, which is guarded by the dragon. The number of towers equals the number of the baskets. Prince Charming rushes on his steed to free the princess. He has to use his self-made zipline to get over the lava pit, all due to SHREK and Donkey mischief, who both made the bridge burn to ashes in the previous movie. SHREK movies had one side goal to achieve, namely to poke at Disney's productions. SHREK includes many references to the well-known characters from DreamWorks' rival company, thus I reckon it won't surprise you if I tell you that the prince is a direct pun towards all those perfect handsome princes that usually have to help their beloved princesses to get off the hook. Instead of Fiona, Charming finds a wolf dressed like a nun. Before that, you could have missed a painting referring to Rapunzel. We shall slow down a bit here as there are a few details easy to miss. Our wolf resembles the one from the Little Red Riding Hood, who devoured the granny of Little Red, disguised itself as her, and then of course ate her grandchild too. Wow, that kinda sounds creepy, doesn't it? Take a closer look at the magazine the wolf's reading. Pork Illustrated. Sounds pretty much like Sports Illustrated, and we all know what this magazine was about. Also, a pig with a bra made it onto the cover of an issue named Bacon in the Sun. Obviously, it contains erotic stuff for wolves particularly. Moreover, he snacks pork crisps. Right, before we go further, subscribe to our channel. Tons of time were spent creating this video, and I even had to watch SHREK 4 times. Thanks in advance, and back to the video. SHREK and Fiona go on a honeymoon. In the background, there's the same carriage they embark on a trip into the sunset in the previous movie. As SHREK carries Fiona inside, he partially destroys the door with her head and legs. When Little Red Hood visits them, the missing parts of the walls were repaired by the ogres. Pretty decent work by them. Apropos the gingerbread house, it's one of the many in the Hansel honeymoon hideaway. The rest of the houses are visible in the background. Seemingly the owner has a flourishing business here. And the landowner obviously is Hansel from the Grimm Brothers fairy tale. SHREK kisses Ariel the mermaid from Walt Disney Pictures movie by a mistake. Unfortunate for her, she is yeeted into the sea by Fiona, and shortly after the sharks, well, feast on her. The engagement ring forged by the dwarves is an obvious reference to the Lord of the Rings franchise. However, the dwarves are from a different tale, the Snow White. SHREK also recreates one of the scenes from the Fellowship of the Ring. Even either of the rings have the same engravings. SHREK falls into a trap and gets his face covered in mud. That Fiona and SHREK scene resembles Spider-Man and MJ kiss in the Spider-Man by Sam Raimi movie. Keep in mind that Fiona has a freckle on her cheek. It's needed to understand one cool detail further in this video. The honeymoon passes by and our two lovebirds head back to the swamp. Much to the surprise, somebody made some changes to their home. A sign warning of orcs made its appearance in the first installment, however without Fiona, as she was yet to be met by SHREK. The question is then, who could have undertaken such a venture? SHREK 2 begins right after the ending of the first one, in which the ogres go on a honeymoon together, so logically they can't be guilty of that. The only suspect that lasts is Donkey, who spent most of his time in SHREK's home under his absence. It exhibits the bonds those two share together. On the pile next to the fireplace, there are many letters and a Parachisi board. It's quite easy to miss this candle that is still lit. The game most definitely wasn't finished, as the counters are still on the board. It theoretically means that Donkey used to party in the swamp house with his fairy tale friends. We might also suppose that the house party had ended minutes before SHREK's arrival. The boys have already waited at the door. We can spot the caps, a candle, a Parachisi game started, and Donkey's behavior also speaks volumes. Donkey simply tries to delude SHREK so that he won't get a beating. The delegation visits SHREK with an invitation to the royal castle in far, far away. One of the guys shows off his talent with a beautiful solo performance, which now mostly is recognized as a meme. But did you know that the melody came from a certain show, namely Hawaii 5.0. It was an American show broadcasted by CBS from 1968 to 1980. It tells a story about the everyday work of an elite federalized task force set out on a mission to deal with crime in Hawaii. SHREK indirectly calls the emissary a buffoon. He seems to be seriously moved by his words. When SHREK crosses the line, Donkey's face expression is worth more than 1,000 words. When push comes to shove, SHREK has no other choice but to go with Fiona, and Donkey's friends once again throw a big house party. Our trio arrive at the far, far away. The overlooking sign is an obvious reference to the Hollywood one, but the smaller sign, "Welcome to Far, Far Away," resembles the Beverly Hills welcome sign. The Palm Tree Alley, which our characters drive through, also exists in Beverly Hills. There's even a street sign informing that there is a Romeo Drive. Yup, the guy from the Shakespeare's Romeo and Julia. The entrance gate also represents one of the American landmarks, namely the entrance to Paramount Pictures, a film company that once owned the DreamWorks studio, which is responsible for creation of SHREK. During our characters' trip around the city, there's a ton of details to catch. After I had watched it multiple times, look what I found. Behind the carriage in this scene, there is a restaurant that kinda rings a bell. Farbucks Coffee obviously parodies Starbucks. In the top right corner, there is Prince Burger, SHREK's version of Burger King, Versace, which is of course a parody of Versace. Cool way to mix archery with Versace, therefore creating nothing else than a shop with archery equipment in SHREK's franchise. On the pink sign, we got the Baskin Robbins, an American multinational chain of ice cream and cake specialty shops. Counterpart in SHREK's universe, namely Baskin Robin Hood, a name that originated from the household name of Robin Hood, who made his appearance in the first SHREK animated movie. Notice this guy and what he does. He cleans a horsey. It's again a SHREK's version of the street window cleaners that favor our car's windows. He even has a squeegee in his hands. Oh, the way he checks if the corner's a real one, absolute classic. Look at the woman's back. Saxon Fifth Avenue. Saks Fifth Avenue, which is a genuine company, is a luxury department store chain headquartered in New York City and founded by Andrew Sachs. On this shot, there is Robin Hood again. As it turns out, he is a film star and currently in Far, Far Away, his new movie, Lethal Hour 4, is a part of the cinema's repertoire. There is also a Gap logo. In the wealthiest district of the city, we are able to notice Rapunzel's house and her incredibly long blonde hair twisting around the walls and even the gate. Later on, we can't miss the Cinderella's house too. SHREK and Fiona meet with the royal couple. Let's take a pause here and look at the close-ups. Remember how I told you to keep in mind Fiona's freckle on her cheek? Behold you folks on the king's face and the exact same freckle. The daughter definitely took after her father. One of the reasons why analyzing this movie is so rewarding, everything thanks to the creator's attention to detail. Off we go to the dining room, in which the whole family is getting ready for supper. Out of nowhere they hear Donkey creating a lot of fuss in the kitchen. Looking at the chef with the knife, he presumably supposed that Donkey wasn't, well, meant to be alive and was intended to be a part of the supper. During the awkward dining scene, seemingly magic is present. On some of the shots the plates are still there, but on others, completely gone. Fiona, angry and embarrassed, leaves. As she opens the door, a portrait of King Harold is revealed. A bit later, a portrait of the Queen also is seen hanging on the wall. Fairy makes her first appearance and begins her song. The personification of the furniture is a reference to the Beauty and the Beast fairy tale, in which everyday homeware also sings with the characters. But listen carefully, as this is not the only one reference to Beauty and the Beast. Godmother shows Fiona her dress weaved by the mice. In the Cinderella animated movie, also mice are responsible for the creation of a dress for the princess. If we pause here, we will be able to check all the books on the shelf. We got a Guide to First Love, a fairy tale about Snow White, and also Sleeping Beauty. There are more of the books, but those are the most important ones. On Fiona's room walls, there is a banner that says Go Camelot, which alludes to King Arthur Castle. Moreover, there's a poster that says Stonehenge, which is a reference to a British rock band Led Zeppelin, specifically to one of their poses they performed during a concert. We head back to the royal couple chamber where the queen reads a book titled King's Wars. Sounds pretty much like Star Wars, doesn't it? Fairy godmother embarks on a little trip with Harold for a little talk with him. They stop by a fast food drive-thru. Prince Charming ordered something that surprisingly looks like a Happy Meal from McDonald's. It's a matter of course that Happy Meals are mostly served for children, thus it indicates how Prince Charming's mother still treats him like a child. He even got a toy, pretty deadly but still a toy. King Harold visits the Poison Apple Inn. The bitten apple could be a reference to Apple's logo, but most definitely it fits perfectly into the poisoned apple given to Snow White by the witch. Also, the scenery looks pretty similar to the arrival of hobbits in the Prancing Pony Inn in The Lord of the Rings. The strong resemblance is visible due to the similar sequence and scenery. In both Shrek and Lord of the Rings movies, it's raining, and also the inside of the inns look kinda similar to each other. Inside the tavern, there are various creatures. We got the Cyclops, Captain Hook playing on the piano from Peter Pan, two trees arm wrestling that aren't ents from Middle-earth but trees that appear in The Wizards of Oz. As Harold approaches the bar, a frog bugs the king with the following words.
Do I know you?
No, you must be mistaking me for someone else.
It foreshadows what is yet to be revealed about King Harold. In the ending of Shrek, it turns out that Harold in reality is a frog. It's a great hint from the creators towards the audience. Next to King Harold sits Headless Horseman. The first sign informs us that no one under 21 is served. And about the second sign, we shall talk a little bit later on in this video. We are back at Fiona's room. A shot with those dolls wouldn't be that special without similar ones that appeared in the first installment of Shrek. Additionally, on the wall there's a poster which says Sir Justin. It's obviously Justin Timberlake, who in 2004, when Shrek 2 was released, was a fiancé to Cameron Diaz, Fiona's voice actor. Shrek reads his spouse's diary. On one of the pages there's a drawing of a foot and a slipper, an obvious reference to Cinderella. In terms of that, we can assume that Fiona at her tender age wanted a similar story. Harold hires a mercenary to get rid of Shrek. This brutal creature is of course Puss in the Boots. He is preparing an ambush towards which Shrek and Donkey are slowly approaching, unaware of it. In this shot, Puss has a missing teeth. He attacks Shrek, gets under his clothes and tears up his shirt. This sequence is a reference to a movie called Alien, specifically to the xenomorph birth scene. Practically one to one, but here we have a cat. Puss makes a letter P on a tree. He does it in the same exact way Zorro drew letter Z. And by the way, Puss is a character strongly inspired by Zorro. Furthermore, the voice actor in the original is Antonio Banderas, who also portrayed Zorro. Shrek catches Puss, look there. In one of the frames the ogre has the hole on his shirt, but on the other, it's magically gone again. Donkey sheds a tear and the fairy business card immediately starts blowing bubbles. Notice Puss' reaction. He instantly reaches for his spade. The boys decide to pay Fairy Godmother a visit. The trio enters the Godmother's factory. The fairy has the Cinderella's metamorphosis exhibited on the wall. Before and after Godmothers gave her a hand. Here we can spot a similar paintings, but this time with a horse that turned into a unicorn. Later on, the annoyed Godmother lists all fairy tales without ogres mentioned in them.
Little Mermaid, Pretty Woman!
One of them is Pretty Woman. It doesn't suit the fairy tales category as it's an American rom-com. In the potion factory, specifically on the assembly line, we can catch a sight of an interesting flask. Zoomed in, the name Viagra is exposed to us. Viagra, whatever. Evidently, Fairy Godmother knows the sexual potency magical trait. The haze is busted, and as the trio flees, Puss rescues his hat exactly in the same way Indiana Jones did. The purple potion turns swans into women. Remember them cause they play a bigger role later on. Moreover, the same potion turns the minions into a clock and a candlestick, which is a reference to Beauty and the Beast, where those two were an indelible part of the series. Shrek, Puss and Donkey make it out of the factory where Prince Charming appears. He makes this pose, which looks pretty alike to Aragorn's one, the main protagonist in The Lord of the Rings. Shrek and Donkey drink the potion and go to sleep in the barn. As they wake up with a slight change in their appearance, the first thing that they face are women. Two of them are the same ones that turned into females affected by the purple potion in the factory. Look, in the far, far away they even got taxis. There's even a place for the yachts. A much more beautiful trio visits the Poison Apple Inn. Notice what's written on the sign. We reserve the right to behead anyone. SHREK eavesdrop on Godmother and King Harold conversation. They spot the unwanted listeners and then the chase after them begins. The transmission takes place in some kind of a television channel in SHREK's universe. Even Donkey's friends watch it on the mirror-like TV. The chase sequence is a parody of The Cops, an American television documentary chronicling the life of police officers. But that's not all of it. Other than the stereotypically showcased brutality of police, there's a hidden agenda here. This whole sequence is a reference to the O.J. Simpson's case, a former American footballer and an actor mostly known in the 80s and 90s. In 1985, the footballer got married to a younger Nicole Brown, who was his second wife, at first a lover with whom he cheated on his first spouse. Police often checked his home due to the domestic violence reports. On the 12th of June 1994, two bodies were found in Simpson's house, Nicole and an accidental victim of this crime, Ronald Goldman. 5 days later, a whole America watches police chase after O.J. Simpson, fleeing in a white Ford Bronco. SHREK also flees on a white horse, and the commentator uses the same term, white Bronco, as the knights are trying to catch SHREK in the woods. Moreover, during the scene, you can actually see that the cops, well, knights, were actually planning the catnip on PUSS. Donkey's boys decide to free the trio from the jail. Pinocchio attempts the mission impossible, but take a closer look at Gingerbread Man. He used frosting to glue his legs, which Lord Farquaad had torn in the previous movie. Whole squad inquire a baker to make a giant gingerbread man. The sequence of cooking the giant reminds me of the Frankenstein creation. Furthermore, during the siege, the gingerbread man roar is a reference to Godzilla. Before the bridge far, far away gates, this scene takes place. It's not a matter of an accident that a similar scene happened in Jurassic Park. Also, look what the knights used to get rid of Mungo. A hot milk. Kinda genius, I must say. SHREK interrupts the wedding, Godmother is defeated, the bride and the groom turn back into ogres, and Donkey turns into Donkey. Notice this mouse. What are you looking for, fella? The party begins, everyone starts dancing, Pinocchio shows off his dancing skills recreating Michael Jackson moves, SHREK attempts stage diving, almost sending this poor dog straight to heaven. I said almost cause seconds later he happily hops on the stage with everyone. Also, in the post-credit scene, Donkey's infants make their first appearance.
Subscribe for next breakdowns of popular movies on this channel.